Welcome to the Mind Vine podcast, where we challenge the stigma associated with mental illness through conversations about a variety of issues impacting mental health. Here we bring you news, views, and interviews that intrigue, educate, and celebrate recovery. Leading us on this journey are the hosts of the Mind Vine podcast, Darryl Mathers and Chris Bovie.
So welcome to the Mind Vine podcast.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Darryl Mathers. This is Chris Bovie.
Hey.
And we're with a special guest, Jim Lawther from VETS Canada. And we've got a couple different programs, the one that really caught our attention. But maybe we could just start off by telling us a little bit about VETS Canada.
Well, VETS Canada was founded by myself and my wife in 2010. I'm a veteran. I served for 15 years, and I had to get out due to injury. And I was kind of lost. You know, I suffer with PTSD and a few other things. But I was, like a lot of veterans, I was in my basement. I couldn't get out. I couldn't really do much. But I eventually got to the point where I was, okay enough to go out and volunteer in the community. And I picked a church Sunday supper, St. Andrew's Sunday supper. And I drove by it like 7 Sundays in a row before I could actually get the courage to go in. But I went in and jumped into it. It felt good. I was helping out with the meals and stuff, and I saw a guy that I recognized, and he was a homeless vet. I thought he was there serving too, but he was a homeless veteran. And he picked out, there's 3 or 4 other guys at that dinner that were homeless too, and they were all vets. And it was like I got hit over the head with a shovel. Like what's going on here? That many vets, how are they homeless? So I came home, and my wife is pretty happy that I actually stayed. So she was pretty happy about me, staying the full hour. But I told her what happened, and she, of course, didn't believe me at all. So she started Googling it, and not a lot came up in Canada, but a lot came up in the U.S. And that was 2010, and no one really knew about homeless veterans then. So we got these guys help. I kind of got mad. I got a small grassroots group together, and we started doing boots-on-the-ground patrols, like in all the shelters and, things like that, looking for homeless veterans. And we found more. And, we were on Canada AM, did a story on us, and we got a call from a veteran in Lethbridge, Alberta, who was not doing well. Said, "Can you help me?" And we were thinking, geez, here we are in Nova Scotia. Like, how can we help him? You know what I mean? But I thought of our military chain. We have a chain. Everybody knows everybody across the country, right? So I have friends in Edmonton because I was posted there. Edmonton's like an hour, 2 hours from Lethbridge. So I said to a buddy of mine, "Do you know anybody? Do you have any buddies in Lethbridge?" He said, "Yeah, I do." So we got this guy help within a half an hour. So I was like, whoa, maybe this can be done across the country. And we took it from that little small grassroots organization to, we're a national charity. We are Veterans Affairs Service Providers in 2014. We have 800 plus volunteers. We've had over 2,000 requests for assistance from homeless and in crisis veterans. So, yeah, we're a volunteer-led organization too. So, not knowing anything about charities or anything, I thought that, all the money went to most causes of charities, but so ours does.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's went from very small grassroots to, we're the largest all volunteer veterans organization in the country now.
So why do you think that is that there hasn't been as much attention in Canada?
I think that the spotlight wasn't shine on it. It was just one of those things where we just didn't know, and until people start reporting on it. I'm sure we've had homeless veterans in Canada forever. Same as everybody else. We just, no one was really looking for them. No one was really saying, "Hey, hold up, we have people that served our country that are homeless. Wait a minute here." And they did in the U.S. They kind of focused on that in the U.S. where they, it was, we're going to get our vets off the street type of thing. And in Canada, until we started really pushing it, no one knew about it. So, is anyone to blame? No. Can we do more for our vets who are in crisis and homeless? Absolutely.
One of the things you're doing for your vets is giving them kind of the gift of music, for lack of a better term. You were talking about it earlier, about how for you in your own personal recovery, you really felt that playing the guitar really enhanced your prospects in terms of recovery. And can you tell us how you took that kind of experience and now you're giving that to vets across the country.
Yeah, well, that's actually what helped me get out of my basement was, one day I was, PTSD is like a cycle of despair. It's like a terrible song that, repeats over and over and over again when you're in the thick of it. And, I tried everything. I tried meditation, I tried yoga, all that stuff, and nothing really got me out of that when I was going through that stuff. But one day I had an old guitar. I picked it up and I started playing it, and I noticed that I kind of drifted away for about 15 minutes, and it broke the cycle of despair in my head. But I caught it. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened there? And I had a little bit of hope, so I started playing more, to the point where when I was feeling that like the darkness come, I would grab the guitar and play a little bit, and it definitely helped. But so that's what kind of got me out of my basement. But we were finding so many vets, homeless vets, that were like me, who suffer with PTSD or other disabilities and pain and whatnot, who needed something, And then about 3 years ago, we had a crisis. There's a lot of soldier veteran suicides, and I was like, okay, hold up, we have to do something here. If we can even help one or two of them with a guitar, let's do it. So I thought, okay, how can I get, this is a big problem, how can I get guitars in the hands of soldiers and veterans? So I thought, okay, well, everybody has a donated guitar, or not a donated, a guitar that they got for Christmas or a birthday, that it's in their closet or under their bed, right? What if they use those guitars and we would, they donate them to the program? So that's what we did. Basically, we used gently used donated guitars for soldiers and veterans. And VETS Canada is a volunteer-led organization. So what if we had volunteer guitar instructors? We could match up 10 lessons and a free guitar. That's a match made in heaven. So that's what happened, and it got big quick. And we're still we've given out 800 guitars to date.
Wow.
It didn't cost anything.
That's great. Well, have you stopped to think about what is it that helped you playing the guitar? Was it just sort of a momentary escape? Was it just pleasure of music and endorphins, or what do you think was the power behind that?
I don't know. I think it's something even like music. It just kind of well, I think because I was so busy trying to get the chords right, and I was thinking about the song, and I was like, I think there's so many things happening to play, that I couldn't. It broke that cycle. So you can only do so many things at once. But when you're playing guitar, you're doing a lot of things at once. So I think that helped, and I think it's the music. The music anyway, is something that it breaks the cycle.
That's great.
We talked a bit earlier when we were just met for the first time about your experience in the military and then your recovery, from mental illness, once you returned home, and the two, in any military country, when you're out of service, the struggle for mental health can be quite prevalent. Like, I guess what I'm clumsily trying to say is that the two kind of go hand in hand. Do they not? Like, you're going through a lot when you're on a tour. You're seeing a lot of things. There's a very good chance you're going to be dealing with something when you get home. Yeah, well,
everybody doesn't think that when you join the military that things that you see and do are going to bother you afterwards. But I think it does. I think it touches everyone. It's just when does it actually start? For me, I was 5 years out before it bothered me at all. And I had an incident where I went to see with my oldest son a movie, and it triggered something behind enemy lines. It was actually, and it triggered something, and I literally got up and ran out of the theater and threw up in a garbage can, and it was like something happened. I was having nightmares and daydreams, and just thinking about the Bosnia stuff, and so some people might not ever, it might not ever affect them if they don't get triggered, but other people it definitely does, and it's hard to find help.
Do you think we've talked before about the culture and first responders or in the military about you have to be tough and not disclosing or afraid to disclose. Do you think that's starting to change a little bit in the military?
I think it is. The more people that talk about their mental health and PTSD or what have you, I think it opens up the door for everyone to say, hey, wait a minute, I kind of feel like that too. Mm-hmm. Maybe for me personally, I thought I was going crazy. I didn't know what was going on with me, like daydreams and nightmares and right out of the blue, I didn't know what was happening to me. So, and there was really nobody talking about it back then. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't have anything to look at and go, oh, okay, maybe it's this. But today we have that. The people are speaking up about it, telling their stories, and I think it's good. I think that we'll save some lives if the more we talk, which we don't want to do because it's difficult, and you don't want to put your pain on someone else. That's what a lot of us, I felt that I was putting my pain on someone else, and they would it would hurt them. So that's why I didn't really say anything until I realized that wasn't working.
One of the big themes that you'll see like this week, we're at the Mental Health for All conference hosted by CMHA, is peer support. Right? It's kind of, if you go through the program, you'll see it highlighted in multiple sessions throughout the week. And I wonder if you feel, just given the uniqueness of military service, peer support is one thing, somebody who's experienced mental illness or PTSD or however you want to phrase it, but also somebody who's experienced that as a result of their service. Is that support, being able to connect with somebody who's been in those shoes, who's been in combat, who's been overseas, is that something that really is a tool that needs to be made more available to veterans?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why we're so successful, is because our volunteers, they're still serving or veterans themselves or family members. They have been there. They have done it. They know, they know what they're looking for. They know their own. So when we find someone who's struggling or who's in crisis or who's homeless or there's an immediate connection. You just don't have to explain certain things. And there's trust. There's that trust that's there that wouldn't get from anyone else. So, peer support is huge for us. Like when we find a veteran who's homeless or in crisis, we match them up with a volunteer. And that's like a 24/7 thing. Like, they make contact whenever they need to. And our volunteers will answer the phone whenever. So that's a secret to our success for sure.
Yep. And what about sort of the forgotten too, like your wife or families of veterans going through this? Is there a lack of supports for them? How they manage a loved one that may be dealing with PTSD, and we often forget about the.
Yeah, so that's the thing. My wife and I, Debbie, started this organization. We would never have Vets Canada if it wasn't for her. And I'm always worried about that. We just talked about that a little earlier with someone at the table, is that, I'm terrified that my son has anxiety. My little guy is 14, couldn't be 15. And I always blame myself for it. Like, did I do that? Did I, because me with my PTSD around the house, did I do that? Did it rub off on him? So I'm always terrified about that. And really, really, I still wonder about it, And there's a thing called secondary PTSD. It's where someone is around someone who is suffering. And it does affect them. It absolutely does affect them. And you think, how couldn't it? You know what I mean? But there's not really a lot of help. There's not a lot of help out there for families and struggling and kids. And so, but again, speaking about it, it's one of those things where if you talk about it, things are gonna happen. Things have to change for sure.
Well, one of the people that's supporting your program, Guitars for Vets, is Sean McCann.
From
Sean Great
McCann,
Big C.
Yes. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about that relationship?
Wow, Sean McCann is unbelievable, actually. He's our national ambassador for Guitars for Vets. And I actually got in contact with him through Clara Hughes. Clara Hughes liked one of our tweets or something, and she tagged Sean in it, and she said she used sports for her medicine, and music was our medicine. And Sean really liked it, and he started following us, and I messaged him, and he said, man, I've been checking out your program. I love this. He said, I love this. How can I help? Of course, he said, how can I help? He left himself open, so I was like, oh, you want to help? All right, then. You shouldn't have said that. So I said, hey, give me your email, and we'll exchange emails. And then in his email, he gave me his number and said, give me a call. So of course I called him right then, and then I thought he thought I was a crazy fan. But it's been amazing with Sean. He's been through so many struggles himself, and he's coming out the other side of it a strong person, and he relates. He relates to me, my struggle that I went through with using the guitar as therapy, because he did.
Yep.
When he's going through his stuff, and he's still going through his stuff. We all are, but he's absolutely phenomenal. He's such an inspiration. I mean, the guy is, he's. You think Canada, we have so many superstars in Canada, and you think that they would really want to support our vets and soldiers and stuff, but you don't really see much of that in Canada. You see it in the U.S. all the time.
Huge, yeah.
Actually, you see Canadian stars supporting U.S. troops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of them live there.
Yeah.
But Sean he's the example of that. Of maybe this is a trend where our superstars can start supporting the troops, and he's really in. I mean, we're doing a concert November 10th in Ottawa. We're going to raise enough money to buy another 700 guitars. Each seat's $100, and that will purchase a guitar and 10 free lessons. That's why it's $100. And if you can't afford or you can't go to the show, if you're another part of the country, you can sponsor a soldier or a veteran to actually go to the show.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, when you purchase a ticket, you're buying a guitar for a soldier or a veteran. If you sponsor a soldier or a veteran, you're letting them go to a show, and you're buying them a guitar with free lessons. So, yeah, we're really excited about it. And it's on our website, vetscanada.org, for more information. And it's really cool. It's going to be fun.
One of the great things about this conference is you get all these people together and you're hearing about all these kind of unique initiatives.
Yeah.
And I think that's in mental health in general. I think we're trending towards finding creative ways to solve kind of these issues that we've been dealing with a really long time.
Absolutely. No, it's great. It's I've met so many people here already that just connect to it right off the bat. It's like, oh, guitar, wow, that could really help. Music therapy, but I mean, it's amazing to meet other people who are trying to help people. You know what I mean? With their struggles. So yeah, it's great.
And that's a great thing about this is we always talk in mental health about patient-centered or client-centered care, and this was an initiative developed by somebody who was dealing with something. Yeah. So it's not just the experts or the clinicians coming up; it's somebody
who's more of an expert than somebody who's dealing
exactly.
with it.
And
I was
who's better
say,
to
I'm not
that.
an expert. Yeah,
but you're an expert.
You're an expert because
your own experience.
in your life, and so
absolutely.
that's amazing. So. Can people still, if people want to donate a guitar, if they have a guitar, how do they do that?
Oh, so other part of this story, we were having a hard time. This I don't know if I mentioned this already, but Long McQuade jumped in to help us. We had so many of these donated guitars we were getting calls about across the country. People wanted to drop them off. We had there's 50 or 60 calls. We didn't have a place to get them dropped off. So Long and McQuade in Halifax, they help us with strings and things like that, and I was emailing with them back and forth, and I got an email that said, in that email chain that said, don't worry about the drop-off point, Jim. You can use every Long and McQuade in the country as a drop-off point. So that just fixed our whole problem. So we have the whole country now. So if anyone has a guitar they want to donate,
just find a Long and McQuade.
Find the nearest Long and McQuade, and they'll get it to us.
So the danger now when they broadcast is our wives are going to please take your guitar.
My unused guitar.
Would you please take it to Long and McQuade tomorrow?
No, that's great.
Well, it's great to meet you. It's great to learn more about your program, and we really appreciate you having you on.
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, guys. Awesome.
Together begins and ends.